Ugh, God, look at that. My overlay screen is already messed up.
Oh, that's great. Look at it.
Is it? It feels like it's leaning to the left. Isn't that leaning to the left? That ain't leaning to the left.
I don't think so.
No.
Y'all aren't seeing it leaning to the left on your end? Hold on, let me look at.
Uh,
Y'all don't see like the black boxes to the side?
oh, a little
Oh,
bit.
slightly, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
no, it's artsy. It's
I
Is
think
that
the
what
cool.
it
vibe as
is?
well.
Hold
Hey,
on.
Chris,
I'm gonna keep
we're
moving
just
with it.
talking about you. Sorry, we're
We were
talking
just
in
talking about
code.
Chris. I like Chris.
When we're
Chris is
talking
the
about
homies.
the overlay, that's a code name for Chris.
Ooh,
That's our
magic.
that's our nickname for you.
It's like magic, we fixed the overlay. Looks good from here, Chris says. Hey, Lex, looks like we can be seen and heard. So, everyone, hi, and welcome back to the Symphony. Symphony Entertainment, Gaming, and Arts, if you don't know, is my gaming company that I tried to take into a Twitch streaming platform that I break things on every moment of every day. It is delightful. It's kind of what we do around here, and we love it. When we're not breaking technology, we also publish, produce, promote, play, stream, run horror systems, indie games, organic content, and things that encourage player agency to bring a symphonic approach to horror role playing. I am your host, Bridgett Jeffries, and tonight I am but again a mere kindred in the city of Berlin. That is because the absolutely incredible storyteller Heinrich Moore of Heinrich Moore Presents is back for the conclusion of Contagion for Vampire the Masquerade. I will allow Heinrich to tell you more about that, but before we get into the game, one quick announcement. Symphony Entertainment does have a Patreon. So if you like this content and would like to help us make more content like this, please consider backing us on Patreon. Tiers are fleshed out with everything from behind the scenes content, postcards, free book products, and more. Appropriately tiered backers also get access to our post-Symphony Gala talkbacks, where the cast and crew finishes up with the game, we let our hair down, we hang out, we showcase our pets, and we talk about the content, things we like, things we don't like, things that we would improve, our favorite moments, and we basically kind of hang out with each other and kind of do a post-game debrief. It allows us to bring our nervous systems down, and also it's really cool when you're dealing with a horror game to check in with your other fellow players and storytellers. Like, it's like, y'all good? We good? What was not good about that? Because that was probably my favorite part of the game. So if you like access to that content, again, you can back us on Patreon at patreon.com/Symphony Entertainment. Without further ado, mostly because I'm super excited to get back into this game, let us unveil this cast. Cast members, please introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are. I lost myself in my own copy, and it's hilarious because I read this at least once a week. Please introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, where people can find you, and the amazing things that you do. Heinrich, our storyteller, please start us off.
Thank you, Bridget, and greetings, Symphony. My name is Heinrich Moore. I am a community content creator, primarily operating on Chaosium's Miskatonic Repository, which is their Call of Cthulhu community program on Drive-Thru RPG. I am also a member of the creator community and work hard to try and inspire folks like you watching to make your own scenarios, post them on the Miskatonic Repository, post them on other community content programs, publish yourselves. We try and make these things happen. We have a convention coming up that is all about that and playtesting and getting your product out there, allowing us to help you market your creative content. It is called Miskatonic Repository Convention. It's going to be in October, and hopefully you'll check out our Discord, you'll check out Facebook, lots more information there. But I will stop there and turn things over to the rest of the cast members.
Amazing. Coming in next, Evan. Tell us, baby. Tell us who you are, what you do, where people can find you, and some of the things that you're into.
Hello.
Oh, dude,
Oh
that
no!
was so dope. He was like, "Hello."
We are 1 minute in. Well, 2 minutes maybe.
And two
I
things
think
have
glasses
broken.
make it look cooler though. The sunglasses are like.
The glasses make it look so dope. So here's the comical thing. If Evan chimes back in, like his internet catches back up or his life catches back up, we'll be fine. If he has to leave Zoom and come back, then I get to redo this entire overlay live on stream. Oh, but I could put us on a break stream. No, I can't, because I'd have to end the stream altogether. So either way, y'all about to be in for some super entertaining stuff. We are going to move over to Phaedra and send thoughts and prayers that Evan actually comes back. Phaedra, tell us who you are, where people can find
we
you.
lost Evan. I don't know if I can do this without Evan here for this.
I don't know. It's hilarious because the only screen capture that isn't working anymore is Phaedra. Phaedra is hanging out in two,
Oh no!
which is hysterical. I don't even know how to move you anymore. Y'all, Symphony
I don't
streams
know.
be the
Where
best.
do I go?
Where'd I go? Where am I? Okay, so this is Evan. Evan went bye-bye.
And I am somewhere.
You
I-
listen, you are beyond the stars. Can I open you up here? No? Nope,
Oh.
I'd have to
Which
you're,
side?
you're what
Okay,
to the
this
left, to
side?
the left, to the right, to the right.
Oh,
I'm just gonna
he's back.
Oh, wait.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
Evan has
I'm alive.
returned.
I want you to know I touched literally nothing. My hands were on nothing. It closed on its own. I don't think it's ever done that. Bridgett, Symphony is so technologically fucked that it is finding ways to screw my Zoom in ways it has never been zoomed before. Thank you. Thank you for
Evan,
sharing
I
the
just want
magic.
you to know the Symphony loves you, and we are delighted to have this particular moment with you where I get to try to fit you back into a box live on stream,
Yes, sorry.
interrupt Phaedra's entire
Hell yes.
intro.
Yeah.
Let's get
Ooh.
awkward and have fun with it.
Yeah.
Zoom is
Listen.
out.
Oh,
So I'm
oh,
good.
yep. Evan, give me a second here. I'm about to throw you into a box. You
Ooh,
can put
This
Evan
is
back in a
cool.
box.
Look at this.
that
Yeah,
is
right?
creative.
Isn't it
so
solutions. Right
Listen,
there.
we out here. Y'all should have seen me when Symphony first started. That struggle was
Woo.
real as shit.
Look at you knowing how to do this shit.
Wow.
Did that
that's some
actually
magic
reset us?
Right there.
It did. It did.
Oh, you did it.
If I had video
Cool.
editing, y'all would never know, but I don't have that yet, so I'm going to start again. Hey, Evan, welcome
Yes.
back. Welcome back. Welcome back again. Please tell us who you are, where people can find you, and some of the amazing things you do. And go quick before you time out again.
Yeah, I'm Evan Perlman. I am a writer on the Miskatonic Repository. I organize group projects like the recent In Strange Seas bundles, which is like Master and Commander versus the Cthulhu Mythos. I am also working on a mini campaign, a hardboiled detective campaign set in Baltimore as a supplement companion piece to the, God willing, forthcoming Baltimore source book from Chaosium. Talk to Chaosium about it if you want to see it sooner rather than later. And I am wearing sunglasses indoors because I am a vampire. But I'm going to put on my regular glasses because this is really getting old. So, you can find me on the Discords. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, kind of, but I mostly just lurk. And you can find me on Blue Sky, also under Dr. Colossus, which is a nicer place because nobody's there.
To be honest with you, that should be their tagline. Phaedra, before I interrupt you
Hello.
again and Kevin leaves, or Evan leaves, let's hear about who you are, where people can find you, and some of the amazing things that you do.
Goodness, who am I? I'm
Who are you?
Phaedra. I am founder and main keeper and writer in Stazarite, Call of Cthulhu podcast, publishing, community, and all that great stuff. You can find me anywhere on Stazarite. You can Google my name probably and put Call of Cthulhu next to it. I probably will come up.
For sure.
And you can find my currently 2 print-on-demand scenarios,
Hey.
The Gods Only and The Gods Will Breed on Drive-Thru RPG. You can also find Stazarite merch on the Stazarite page. We have these lovely t-shirts and others. And these dice bags have now gone live, made by Beverly and Stitches, and they're beautiful. And you can find they don't have the dots. This is black, but yeah, they are also customized, so you can say any word you want, and it will be embroidered on them. We're on Stazarite dice bags. Find them now on Etsy. And yeah, I think that's me. Come and touch me on Discord, Facebook, whatever, wherever. Come and say hi.
I love us so much, and I love that we're all so ingrained into the community content programs. We're all bestsellers. We all support each other. This is just an amazing group of people, and I'm super stoked to be here. Content warnings have been discussed with the cast and crew. We have reviewed our red lines. The X card is in play. X's can be sent via private message directly to Heinrich, or they can be visibly X'd here in chat or here on screen. If an X is thrown, no judgment is passed. No questions will be asked. We will also be using the green, yellow, red traffic light method, which is my personal favorite safety tool, to do temperature checks in the event that we need it. Thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of Contagion, Vampire the Masquerade. I'm going to get the hell out of the way and turn it back over to our storyteller.
We continue with the conclusion of the scenario Contagion for Vampire the Masquerade by Ben Heinrich. As before, we start high above Berlin. The city looks like a map. We see wisps of clouds. But this time we hear the voice of Gabriela Susanne Kerner, better known by her stage name Nina, the 1980s German pop phenomenon, and her hit 99 Red Balloons as it starts playing while we hover over the city. As the beat of the song drops, we see acts of police violence as police in fully armored riot gear advance upon a riotous crowd. The music continues playing, and we see a kindred, fangs bared, slamming a police officer against the wall. We hear over the sound of the beat the crunching of bones, followed by the sound of rapid gunfire as this kindred is gunned down. We see the coterie of our players, our characters, descend into the sewers, led by a doll-faced Nosferatu known as Emilia. As the song's verses continue, we see the Nosferatu kindred infected by the blood curse emerge from the sewer's shadows and ambush you. As the lyrics fade and the beat once again returns, we see Irene bashing in the head of an infected kindred who has rested its head in her lap, and she is demolishing its face with a sewer brick. With the beat of the music fully returned, we see the shuffling queue of Germans looking to pass police checkpoints on their way to work. And each drop of the beat, we sort of see all their feet in unison march one step forward closer to the police checkpoint on their way out of the city, or out of at least those parts of the city that have become uninhabitable because of the May Day riots. We see Margareta standing before her supposed sire, Beauregard Krüller, and his lieutenant, Cherise Fontaine, in the nightclub Das Ende, in the presence of a terrified mortal and several kindred who have been ordered to strip and stand in their underwear while Margareta collects their clothes. We see Akif, the gangrel, in a sewer fighting, his pistol firing at a human doll-faced Nosferatu, Emilia, advancing towards him, and we hear over the sound of the music, "I hated you the most." As the beat speeds up and the lyrics threaten to return, we see Orvain Evans, the Tremere, tumbling through the crowd chased by a group of Nazi skinheads. With Nina singing again, we see the lead skinhead, a short muscular woman in a leather jacket, pull out what looks like a grenade. There's a flash bang, and the crowd begins to panic. As the lyrics ring out, we see the shadow of Akif the gangrel in a sewer tearing apart a body. And then we see him on the street, surrounded by panicking and rioting people, just clustering away from him, running past him, as he bites into the neck of the same woman we saw moments ago. As the lyrics come towards the end of the song and we hear the phrase, "Everyone's a superhero," the music suddenly ceases as a black bag is pulled over the head of Orvain Evans de Tremere. We fade to black, and when we return, we see the coterie in a police van. Irene is sitting in the front, along with one of the police officers driving the van. Two of the coterie, Akif and Margareta, are sitting in the back. They have been handcuffed, but it does not appear that they have been blindfolded. They do not have hoods over their heads, unlike Orvain Evans, who is not just cuffed, but wrapped up and lying on his side on the floor of the back of the police van, hood tightly clinched over his head. He is not moving. We see what look like suburbs passing outside the van windows. And with that, I turn the action back to our coterie. Irene, you were invited to sit at the front after the police stated to you that the prince would like to see all of you. What's going through your mind, or what are you doing as you're watching Autobahn 114 take you out of main city Berlin, past police checkpoints that don't even slow you down, on your way into the suburbs?
I guess my first reverse question for you here, storyteller, given the directionality from a geographical standpoint, can I tell which prince we're heading towards or would be more likely to be heading towards?
You are heading east. At a guess, you would say you are heading towards the Berlin suburb of Schönwald, where the Iron Prince, the Prince of the East, maintains his immediate domain.
Okay. And is that Gustav or is that the...
That is Gustav.
So what's going through my head now once I have reconciled that we are heading to... I hate to even say this inside of my own mind, the appropriate prince. The entire hierarchy that the Camarilla is set upon is all bullshit, but I know better than to articulate that out loud. But at least we're heading towards a prince that into the domain that we belong on. I feel empowered, but incredibly cautious and concerned that I am not handcuffed, that I am not bagged, and that I am being seated in the front. Of course, as eventually there's that little piece and part of me that's like, of course, this is where I belong. Where else would they put me? To be honest with you, they should give me a limo. But given the circumstances, there's a certain degree of humility and chill that I am feeling this moment, just because I at least do have eyes when my coterie members do not. I have freedom of movement when my coterie members do not. I have some degree of agency and freedom of movement when my coterie members do not. And that is not a comparative aspect. It's like, haha, this is what I have and they don't. I am an extension of this coterie. So Keith may not be able to see, but I can give him directions. Margareta may not be able to move, but I can move on their behalf. So it's one of those things where I am empowered by the fact that at least we're not all in the back. I am curious as to why Orvain is being brought to a prince that he was not supposed to report to.
Irena, as these thoughts go through your mind, you hear, it's just in your mind, but it's the sound of a growl. However much agency, however much freedom you think you have, you are all too aware of the beast inside you. What is your hunger level at?
It's at a 4.
Evan. Akif is in the back of the van. He is joined by Margareta, as well as Orvain, such as he is, as well as 4 armored police officers who look straight ahead, not that you can see their faces, but they are expressionless behind their masks and unmoving. You have a sense that they will not take any action unless you force it upon them. What is going through Akif's mind? And what, if anything, is Akif doing?
He is doing absolutely nothing. And it is very difficult. He's acutely aware of, first, this kind of ridiculous thought, which is, I've never been in the back of a police van before. Been in the front several times, but this is new. But that is quickly overwhelmed by sort of a shouting match in his head. And one side is shouting, tear them all apart, get out. And one side is shouting, if you move, you will never get out. And he feels like he's being crushed under this imaginary wave of shouting and adrenaline. He doesn't have adrenaline anymore, but it brings back that vivid recollection, that feeling that the hair on the back of his neck is standing up. And he uses his old breathing cop trick when he was about to draw and shoot someone, and he takes a wholly unnecessary breath and starts sort of counting by ones and then by twos, and stares at. Can he see Irena from where he is?
No.
Okay. So then he is not staring, but he is listening very carefully for sounds from the front.
I should correct that. There is a window. It will be pulled open, so you can see a little bit of the front, but you might at best see sort of a part of the back of Irena's head,
Okay.
and it is behind a thick screen.
Okay. And I think he has not articulated this thought to himself, but what he's landed on is the way that I'm going to avoid getting myself and all of us killed is by sublimating my actions to Irena. And whatever she does, I will also do.
Margareta, you find yourself in the back along with Akif and everyone previously described. What is going on in Margareta's head, and what is she doing, if anything?
Margareta has been in the back of a police van before, possibly a few times. This is not the problem here. She doesn't like it. She feels like she could overpower them. She feels like this is authority gone too far. She's getting this very familiar, comforting sense of anger. It's rising upon her, kind of protecting her, warming her. And she's looking around, and then in a moment of realization, that warmth coming up inside her, powering her up, suddenly freezes into cold panic, because this is not the Prince of the West we're going to. This is not Wilhelm. This is the Prince of the East. This is Gustav. This is the prince that was supposed to authorize her existence, but didn't. This is the prince to whom she is but a scourge, vermin, that needs to be killed just for existing. She is approaching, she is heading, she is being driven to, against her will, to the end of her world. If the prince even suspects that she was made without his permission, she will not get a chance to defend herself. She will not get a chance to speak for herself. She will be destroyed. And while that anger powering her up, warming her, getting her ready to solve this problem, is crushed, and she's left with this cold, paralyzing fear. She is frozen in place, the ringing in her ears too loud to even contemplate any action besides biting the inside of her cheek so hard she can taste the blood from that poor man she drank from not that long ago. But her mind is loud and cold and dark, and she is afraid. The anger can't save her here. She is afraid, and she's scared. And she stays still, looking at nothing and feeling everything.
It is said that caged animals may be at their most dangerous. Irena, would you please give me a willpower roll?
En route. I am rolling my available pips in this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then nothing else goes with it?
Just willpower for this one.
3 successes.
Okay. There's a couple of things, Irena, that are coming to you as your journey nears its end. One is the painful awareness of how much blood is in the body of the police officer next to you. The other is your apparent destination, Damsmüller Castle in the Berlin suburbs of Schönwald, a castle in Baroque style, laying in ruins and overgrown with weeds. Off in the distance, as you traverse this almost a country road at this point, you are on the very outskirts of the city. It is, of course, night, although at this point, there's probably only 5, maybe 4 hours until daylight. And as you look out at the castle, very few lights on, although some, you have the sensation of seeing something flying above the castle through the clouds. It looks like a plane, and then it's filled by many planes, dozens of them filling the sky. As parts of the plane's undersides open up and things begin to drop out, you find yourself shaking your head, and you just see the castle. The van pulls up to the several hundred-year-old's castle. Irina, you can now see that the windows and doors, except the main entrance, are all boarded up. This place looks shabby. It has clearly fallen into disrepair. It's a 3-story castle, so it's very much in the style of sort of mansion homes of nobility of several hundred years ago. The police officer turns to you and says, "We are here, ma'am."
Thank you. Who shall be introducing us to the prince?
Frau Kornfeld will meet you here, he says, as he steps out of the van, comes around to your side, Irena, and opens the door for you.
The door opens and one of her booted feet goes to step out, and she's going to stop and she's going to look over her shoulders into the back. And of the others?
They will be brought with you. And you see the back doors, or you hear them open up as the 4 armored police officers step out, and you see Margareta and Akif be escorted out, although they are still in shackles, they're still in handcuffs, but their feet are not otherwise belabored, they are not hooded, they have some freedom of movement, unlike Orvain Evans de Tremere, who is essentially pulled out of the van and is being dragged by 2 of the officers.
That Tremere is no longer my concern. However, Akif and Margarete are my concern. So I'm going to... It's very predatory because she's very on edge right now. And she is very hungry. And that police officer smells delicious. And I step around the 2 of them, looking them over almost appraisingly. And I turn back to that officer. Under whose authority are they to remain? Under whose authority are they to be bound?
My authority, a female voice says, emerging from the castle, and turning, Irena, you see your sire, Katharina Kornfeld, emerge from the castle. She is a short woman, maybe close to your height. She has a Russian braid and an elegant and dark 3-piece suit in the Garçon style. She has dress boots with high heels that click as she walks across cobblestone. But if you vouch for them, of course they can be let free, she says.
I spin immediately the second I make eye contact. Aventru knows better than to disrespect an elder by actually breaking eye contact. That's not something we do, especially because so many of our powers are directed through eye contact. But I will, drop my head in deference. I do vouch for them. Sire, thank you for the escort.
You hear more than see, or you rather feel her wave her hand, and the police officers remove the handcuffs from Margareta and Akif. And your face is lifted up to meet the eyes of your sire, Katharina, who looks into your face and says, "Child, I am so relieved that we have found you. There is much we have to discuss."
There's a moment, there's a beat, there's a pause. I'm going to look back at Akif and Margareta. I'm going to return to my sire. Before we proceed forward with any agendas, mission operatives, or expectations, or even a discussion, I am at a breakpoint liability. I am starving. And I believe that I'm sick. I need to feed.
"Of course," she says, and she gestures at the police officer who was your driver, motioning for him to follow.
I nod appreciatively. I'm very straightforward, especially with someone as powerful as my sire. We have a business arrangement. And I'll follow after the group.
Yeah, you are all escorted into the Prince's castle, Damsmüller Castle. The inside appears much as the outside does. Disused, disrepaired, decay has set in across much of the 3-story structure. Katerina gestures to an anteroom for you, Irena, and whispers something in the police officer's ear, and he goes into the room and sort of half closes the door, leaving it open for you. Katerina will remain here with Margareta and Akif.
And I'll slip in and follow in after the officer.
Okay. Akif, Margareta, you know Katerina Kornfeld. She is widely known in the Berlin kindred community as the Lieutenant of the Iron Prince of the East, Gustav. She is sometimes called the savior of the Masquerade because of the lengths that she has gone through to maintain that tradition in Berlin. You also know that many kindred have paid the price for that dedication. You feel her study you before she asks, "What are you to my child?" referring to Irena. And she looks at both of you for an answer.
Akif glances at her eye very briefly and then looks down and to the left, and says, "We are her trusted friends, and she is ours."
She looks at you, Margareta, for either confirmation or clarification, or perhaps correction.
Oh.
Margareta has been frozen, kind of following along everyone else, but terrified this entire time. Her eyes have been darting everywhere, looking for a way out and realizing that there can't be a better way to manage this than following and staying with the group. But now that she's been directed to, she can't find a voice in her to confront or to answer or to do anything. She knows that no matter what she says, she is walking closer and closer to her final death. So she's avoiding eye contact. She is doing the thing that I used to do in the classroom where I didn't want to get picked by the teacher, so I just looked down and pretended I wasn't there. She is, as far as she's concerned, she's not there. She is behaving non-verbally, just not acknowledging anyone, just hoping that she actually disappears and this isn't happening. Because otherwise, if she's forced to acknowledge and realize the position she's been put in, she might not be able to control the beast, the fearful beast.
Katerina takes a step closer to you, Margareta, until she is right in front of you. And then she abruptly turns to Akif and grabs a hold of your chin, Akif, and says, "Irena Mahler does not have friends." Irena, what do we hear from the room that first the police officer and then you entered?
Akif and Margareta are familiar with that conversational predation tone that Irena sometimes does when she's interrogating individuals, sometimes that she does before she feeds. They're probably intimately aware of her prey exclusion at this point. When I walk into the room with that police officer, just really quickly, what does he do, if anything? Is he just waiting? I don't know what he was instructed to do by the sire, so we're both very curious. Oh, I have lost a Heinrich's audio.
You're muted, buddy.
He is just standing, almost puppet-like, You have the sense that these must be ghouls in the service of Katerina directly, or perhaps even the prince.
No, that makes sense. So what they're going to hear is the heel of Irena's not heeled boot, but just like the end heel as she is walking around this individual. And she's going to interrogate him and ask him a series of questions that begins with, "What is your name?"
And he gives you his name.
"Are you married?"
He is.
"How long have you been married?"
He's been married for 7 years.
"You have a spouse of 7 years, but who is it that you actually desire?" And I am going to activate whatever version of mesmerism that this is on the sheet that I need to pull up really fast.
No, understood. No roll needed here.
Come.
He begins to breathe heavily and confess to you that in his heart, he always serves Katerina.
That is absolutely amazing. Then I'm immediately going to lean into, tell me what it is that you desire of her. Tell me what it is that you desire of your experience with her. Tell me how you fantasize about my sire, and touch yourself as you do so. And then I stand in front of him and I wait.
He seems to shrink before you as he describes in detail different scenes he's visualized of Katerina towering over him, not even speaking to him, merely treating him as a thing.
"My apologies, officer. I am a poor substitute for my sire." And then she's going to launch on him.
And you hear, Margareta and Akif, a cry of ecstatic pain from the antechamber that Irena just entered. Katerina lets go your chin, Akif, as that sound carries over to you. You perhaps hear a slurping sound shortly afterwards. Irena, you can take 1 or 2 levels of hunger, depending on whether you wish to take this individual to the brink of life, or 3 if you just wish to be done with them.
My sire said there was much to discuss and that there was much to be done. I need to be operating at my optimal abilities. He's never going to see his wife again.
You are able to cure 3 levels of hunger. Margarita, Akif, that sound goes on for quite some time. Minutes pass. It's not a fast process to consume that much blood. Eventually, it slows and then stops. And almost as though transitioning from one sound to another, you hear a voice coming from above the 3rd floor. Cry out, "Katerina! Wo bist du? Where are you?" Katerina checks very finely designed Swiss watch around her wrist and calls out, "Irena, it is time."
Oh, good to the last drop is what I'm thinking. But what I do is step away from him. Despite my cold, outward-facing opinion and appearance, I'm not actually a monster. But then again, I am exactly that by definition. This was a necessary thing. This had to happen. There are more lives at risk than this one. There's that moment where that grief, that remorse wants to knock on her door, but she just has to shut that down because she can't focus here. She needs to be focusing forward. She exits the room, closing the door behind her.
I imagine it's communicated by the camera that is on floor level, and we just see the face of the police officer. He wasn't armored after all. He was just a cop. Drop down to the ground. His face shows relief, almost like someone who has come out of confession, but of course, unmoving and completely drained. And we see Irena's shoes by his face linger for a moment before they turn away. And we see her head towards the door, go through and close it. The remaining armored police officers escort you and drag your Tremere along with you to the third floor, where you are admitted into a large salon. This once would have been perhaps a dance hall. There are chandeliers here still, an ornate stucco ceiling. But the room is largely empty, almost as though it was still waiting for a crowd to dance through it. It contains an old-fashioned writing desk covered in papers, a dining room off to a side filled with a map, a high-backed armchair close to the desk, and in the back of the room, in one of the corners, behind surgical screens that have been set up on gurneys, you see the outline through those sheets of a bed and someone or something moving in it. Margareta, as you step into the salon, your foot touches something, and looking down, you see a pile of ash. And Akif, as you notice it as well and look out, you begin to see just how much ash is scattered around this room.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Katerina says, "Please excuse me for a moment." And she goes over to the surgical screens and disappears, but for her outline behind them. And you hear her, in hushed tones, begin, "I am here, my prince." But the rest of the conversation is muffled. You believe you have a moment to, well, not quite yourselves. You do still have your escort, but you are able to take in what you might will of this room. Margareta, perhaps we can start with you.
Margareta feels like she has just seen her future in that pile of ash. Is it fair to say that she knows it is from diablerie vampires?
Yes.
Many of them. How many would she be able to estimate from the amount of ash?
It's difficult to say because while the pile by you is sort of a pile, the rest of it is pretty scattered. Like it just hasn't been cleaned up. It's been walked through, so it's almost more like a layer than distinct.
Okay, so it's been going for a little while.
You hope.
Yeah, I hope. Margareta takes the time to make sure that the other two know how dire her situation is. She doesn't say it because of the escort, but she gives them the look of fear and panic, and she hopes that they understand what it means. She looks down at the ashes, she looks up to them in a kind of, please get me out of here, final moment, as she can feel the trapped beast rising. And she's doing her best to stay still and to not provoke it any more than she has to.
Margareta, go ahead and give me a willpower roll and add a number of dice equal to 1/3 your humanity.
Oh, shit.
And while you're doing that, let's go to Akif.
Okay.
Akif, are you doing anything while you have this momentary and very limited freedom?
Yes. Can I walk over to the dining room, or am I?
Of course.
Okay, then that is where I'm going. Is the map purely decorative?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It is a map of the city of Berlin, though no person from this or the previous few decades would likely recognize it as such. It is an old map, a map that shows a city that has changed so drastically, it's unclear how a map like this could still be useful. There have been neighborhoods drawn in showing where the city has expanded over time, when neighborhoods have been added, but all the lines dividing the city still treated as it might have existed hundreds of years ago. And the map is filled or covered in these icons, these stone emblems that show the markings of clans, but also of individual vampiric coats of arms, or perhaps coteries. They are scattered around the map like soldiers on a battlefield. You see a number of them are turned over, where they have just gray or without color, or on their other side where they still have color, perhaps indicating whether they are active or not. It doesn't take more than a glance to see that the pieces on the east are far outnumbered by the pieces on the west.
Okay. So Evan does not have the like vampire lore to know if there's a deeper significance to this. Would Akif kind of be able to interpret this better?
Akif would recognize this likely as reflecting the ongoing conflict, the jihad between the East and the Western powers. So the Prince of the West, Wilhelm, and the Prince of the East, his sire, Prince Gustav, who is presumably in a bed not too far away from you. It seems that this is laying out the lines of conflict between the two sides, and likely has shown significant activity over the past few nights as the riots have played out, giving both sides the opportunity to take advantage of the chaos and remove pieces from the board.
Okay. Is it clear that one side has benefited more than the other? And that can be from the map, or that can be thinking back on the rumors that we've heard. Between the riots and the sickness, is that clearly benefiting East or West?
Benefiting the West.
Okay.
If anything, the East looks like it's running out of space.
Okay. Sorry.
Anything that you are doing?
So this is interesting because my entire focus is about to be on Margareta, but you asked for a roll, so it could change on how this roll went. But without knowing in game that you asked for a roll, with that panicked look that she just threw her, 1, my sire is not going to tolerate that bullshit. 2, we have way too much on the line. 3, I just got fed. We're sheltered. We have full access in and out of the city this is Christmas for us. We cannot allow some silly shit to fuck this up. Also, she recognizes that not only is Margaret a liability at this point, but this is also someone that she genuinely does care about. So without knowing that you asked for a roll, what I would be attempting to do is, as Akif moves by them, I would move and position myself directly in front of her, locking her in eye contact, non-verbally in a way attempting to ground her, like, you need to focus on me and not the bullshit on the floor. You need to focus on me and not what's going on in your head or going on around you. It's completely non-verbal. 1, that's just how this character gets down, but 2, she can't tip off their little escort.
I will reduce the difficulty, the number of successes required of Margareta to keep herself steady. But let's hear how that roll went.
Well, I rolled 11 dice, 9 for my willpower and another 2 for my third of humanity. And I got 3 10s in normal dice.
Excellent. So
another 3 successes on top of that. So
all right.
Yeah, oh, and I rolled 2 1s as well. But I don't know if that's cool.
Phaedra, you had me so stressed.
Were any of those ones, or were any of those 10s hunger dice?
No, all of the ones in the 10s were normal dice.
Okay. In that case, the camera is zooming in on Irena and Margareta, locking eyes, staring at each other, and we hear the sound of fluids, and we realize it's the blood going through Margareta's veins, and it increases in volume until it just snaps quiet. And however much was going on behind Margareta's eyes, in her mind, the chaos is silenced. And Irene, you can see that Margareta is going to be all right. You hear from the bed, from the corner, "How dare you look at me like that, Katharina? I am your Iron Prince. I am the East. I'm sorry. Have we heard back from Dresden? Did their court survive the Allied bombing? They must send all help they can before they are overrun by the Soviet kind. And have you had any news from Rotterdam? The prince there, if I could speak with him just one time, I think he is sympathetic to our cause, Katharina." Katharina emerges from behind the screen. You can tell she's been sort of looking down. Irena, you see that she is comporting herself at a distance before she closes with you again. And as she walks away from the screen and the bed where the prince is still hidden from sight, you hear him begin to wail, calling for her to come back.
So Keith has, being Gangrel, being bureaucratic by nature, has a very attuned sense of the power structure of the world. And he's just had this moment, which he looks to Irena very subtly to see if she's also had this moment of, "Irena, your sire is effectively the Prince of the East." And
That's
so he kind of
with a curt nod.
nudges up next to her, sort of back from the dining room.
Katharina waves you over, Irena, as she goes to where Akif was moments ago, gesturing at the map and telling you, "There's much to do, many agents that we have to reactivate. Now that you're here, we may have a chance." And she begins to detail sort of, it's not like it's nonsense, but it is describing a series of actions and thrusts by the pieces on the board that just doesn't really seem realistic given the riots that are going on. The amount of power that Katharina seems to think still remains in the East just doesn't fit the reality, even as you're seeing it on this board that presumably she herself has set up.
Is it necessary for me to make a roll for like something similar to like a security or a tactics or something to see exactly how far off base she is?
It's pretty far off. It's not delusional, but she's talking about reactivating agents, and in some cases it's mentioning vampiric kindred that for a fact have met their final death in the past few nights. Perhaps she doesn't have that information, but then look around. How would she have that information?
Sire, when is the last time you were in the field?
Oh, since before the riots, of course. It's been incredibly dangerous. Well, as you yourself know. Why do you ask, child?
Your intel is no longer valid. May I introduce the others? We've been in the trenches for the following X amount of hours, and she's super specific. If it's 96 hours, she's going to say 96 hours. Their perspective would help prioritize or would help reprioritize your tactics.
Akif, Margareta, you have limited freedom once again. You can either go to the dining room table and share any thoughts, or you can use this opportunity to look around further.
I don't think Margareta is ready to confront the prince, question mark, potentially the person who will order her death. She is going to pretend she didn't hear anything and look around at anything that might capture her interest. What is near them?
You see that the police officer escort, two of the officers were manhandling Orvain Evans, the Tremere. They have loosened some of his bonds, not all of them, just enough essentially that he can hobble at a walk. And you see that they are beginning to take him in the direction of the bed in the corner.
The surgical
Yes.
bed.
And
which is on the other side of the dining room with the map.
That's right. That's right.
That seems dangerous as well. So between a rock and a hard place,
I'm going to give you a spoiler, Phaedra.
It doesn't matter.
It's all dangerous.
It's all dangerous. It's all a wrap.
No good option.
Well, Margareta is starting to accept with some calmness after kind of Irena's, comforting gaze. She's starting to accept that she will die. Probably soon, looking around. But, if there's one thing that matters to her is preventing unfair injustice. And she doesn't know this Tremere. He's from the West. But as far as she can tell, the police are just treating him with injustice for no reason. Like, he hasn't confronted them. He hasn't tried to fight. He's not resisting, really. So if she's going to go down, she might as well do it while trying to support the downtrodden. So she's going to regain that comforting sense of rage about the unfairness of the world and the police, who are not her friends. And she's going to follow them and just put on this persona of a person that's not about to die, or a vampire that's not about to meet the final death, and ask them what they're doing. So, what are you doing with this man? And
Orvain, you hear Orvain's voice. He can speak underneath his hood. You see that his head must be moving rapidly left to right, as though he's trying to see something about what's going on. And you hear him ask, "Yes, what is going on? Where are you taking me? Where am I?" And the police will just continue moving him forward. And Margareta, we're going to come back to you, Orvain, your police officer friends, and the Iron Prince in just a second.
Oh, God.
So we can see that from over by the map?
Yeah, so, I mean, you are essentially watching as Margareta is going in one direction, Irena is in the other direction where the table is, along with Katerina, and up to you whether you want to go to the table to respond to what Irena just said in terms of sharing any intel you might have on the city. Katerina she glances over, but you think that might have just been to instruct the police officers to take the Tremere over to the prince.
Akif is going to lean way out of his comfort zone. A lot of things going through his head. Going to cough and intentionally look deferential toward Katerina. And say he may have more value in discussion than in digestion.
She waves you over. What do you mean?
He's well informed on the state of the city, and his knowledge may be more useful than his blood simply as a meal.
Go ahead and give me a roll. Let's go with I am thinking manipulation.
Okay.
And what would you argue for?
Well, I don't know. You might argue that security is not appropriate here, but it's sort of a spy thing, right?
I would accept leadership.
Okay, I have none of that.
I would accept subterfuge. I would
I have
accept
some of that.
law or investigation.
Um,
I would accept
okay.
politics.
Yeah, let's go with investigation then if we're talking
Okay.
about informants and
Yeah, I
learning
like
things.
that.
Can I? So this is sort of an etiquette question, right? If you boost your abilities, is that sort of offensive to other vampires? Are they like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Or are you just like, I really need to do my best here. I'm gonna straighten my metaphorical tie with some blood boost here.
The biggest danger is that you will fail your rouse check and become hungrier, and that is noticed. But
Okay.
simply boosting your powers here for purposes of, slipping back into that detective persona and really talking to someone in that language. That in itself is not going to arouse suspicion.
Okay. Yeah, because he's got this feeling. He went skiing in the Swiss Alps once when he was alive, and he was with a girl he was trying to impress, and had never been skiing before in his life, and went immediately to I think it was called like the Instant Death or the Dark Angel or something, one of those slopes, and like a second and a half in realized that he was probably going to die and needed to use every ounce of his awareness and will and cleverness to hit a smaller tree rather than a bigger tree. And that's kind of where he is now. He feels like he's completely committed to this thing that he cannot control, and he can't make the situation that much worse for himself.
Go ahead and give me a rouse roll.
Okay,
Going
and
to be a
that's
single
one.
D10.
Okay.
And you are hoping for a 6 or higher, so you do not increase your hunger level.
And that is a 10
This is
All
the
right.
way, Evan. This is the
on
way.
my red
Nice.
vampire dice from 20 years ago.
Yes.
Lovely. So whatever your hunger level is at, it's going to stay at
Great.
that. And because of your generation, you will be able to add 2 additional dice.
Fantastic. And so we are rolling manipulation plus investigation plus 2. That is a total of 7. 3 of them are hunger dice. Give me a moment. I'm using real dice this time.
Oh,
Nope. Always one that falls.
All right. I'm going to let Akif go ahead
Sure.
and get those dice together and do that roll. Margareta, the curtain is pulled aside as you get close to the bed that holds Prince Gustav, the Iron Prince of the East. Police officers seem unbothered. Again, you suspect that they are ghouls under the thrall of Katerina or the prince, unlikely to yield to anything you might say. But as they pull aside the surgical screen, you see chained to the bed a middle-aged man, scraggly beard, may have been handsome once, but his features have sunken. It's a horrifying thing to see in a kindred, because generally speaking, you always appear the same. Every day when the sun sets, as you were when you were embraced, you become again. But this is clearly not what the prince was before. He pulls against his chains. His mouth, his lips are stained with crimson. The bed is soiled, just filled with blood from where what fluids the prince has have left his body. You see one eye looks bloodshot, looks scared, manic, but it's the other eye that really catches you, because in the dark iris that you see reflecting yourself back is the same kind of look you saw in the Nosferatu who were infected with the blood curse in the sewers that you confronted. And it is clear to you that this is a sick, sick man. The police officers pull the hood from Orvain. And the prince says, "Yes, yes, bring him here. I must feed. So hungry. Katerina? Katerina!" And he's gesturing towards you, Margaret, as much as his restraints will allow, as though you are Katerina.
What's happened? What? Yes, I'm afraid you can't eat this one. We'll bring you another one. Oh my god.
The Iron Prince pauses, stares back at you. You have a moment of thought as you realize that this creature walked the night when Napoleon conquered Europe. This thing survived World War after World War. And now you are fully in the gaze of both its eyes. And it says, "You are not Katerina? How dare you speak like that to me? I am the Iron Prince. I am the East now and forever. The wall that stands, the line that will not yield. It was I who held back the Sabbat from Vienna. Them and their caitiff scum, what are you to me? Bring her! Bring her!"
Oh, shit.
And the two police officers have let the Tremere go and are moving to grab you, Margareta.
Well, they are still human.
Yep.
Ish. So I'll take a step back. Margareta has accepted she's going to die, but she is an anarch at heart. And while the prince would normally cause her terrible fear, she has managed to quell the beast enough to house herself in the comforting rage that she knows well and trusts. And she can't let the fear back in, not even for a moment. She knows that if she lets any fear back in, even the reasonable kind, she's going to lose it. So she's not afraid. There's nothing in her. There's no humanity she's in touch with to let her blood do anything besides stay still, turn around, give the police the most fearsome stare she has in her, activating her discipline to cause them to absolute terror, and then turn into to the prince and say, "You are nothing but a sickly old husk, and any power you have was never earned."
While this is going on, Irena, Akif, and Katerina are at the war table. You are aware of some conversation, some exchanges going on over there, but especially with Akif speaking, very much focused on the here and now. Katerina looks to you, Irena, glances over at the standoff that is happening over on the other side, and says, "Very well. Akif, how did the roll go?"
Oh, it was, for what it matters, it went great. I got 4 successes.
All right. I was looking for 3. If we need the Tremere, someone else will need to sustain the prince so that we might have the benefit of his counsel.
Oh.
Irena, Katerina is looking at you, but she might as well be looking at Margareta.
Sorry.
I am so upset and so embarrassed in this particular moment.
You calmed her down.
I just vouched for these people. There's clearly about to be a change in leadership and power. And Margareta is pulling a Margareta. This is the most inopportune time ever.
It's in the character sheet. So
it's in the character sheet. Listen, there's nobody you can blame. It's just, it was in the character sheet.
Push the regime change. Go for it.
Now is the time. She doesn't have much time. If she's gonna bring down the Camarilla,
this is the moment, apparently. Calm, cool, and collected. My COVID brain is still comical. Sorry, guys. I am gonna agree with Akif as, like, I'm pointing out the last 3 officers that she named are all deceased. We can confirm kills on these individuals. whomever the Tremere is, this Orvain, he was en route to the Prince of the West with some intel that he is fully in the belief of will change the dynamics of our current situation, if you'll excuse me, because she's saying this as she's walking backwards, and then she's appropriately not turning her back directly to her sire. And then we're gonna go talk to Margareta, because what the fuck is happening today?
Margareta, looking outwards, the audience might mistake the scene for that of a squabbling child. You are facing down these two police officers. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and give me a roll. This is going to be...
Don't.
This is going to be your... Definitely intimidation.
I think it's presence and intimidation.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And an additional... Yeah, that's it.
Yep, presence, intimidation, got it.
It's not a lot of dice. Do I add anything else to it? No.
I think I was getting this wrong last time. I think we are still adding an attribute. So go ahead and add manipulation.
Okay.
Because the rule dictates that you add your presence to any intimidation rolls, but an intimidation roll would still be an attribute plus a skill.
That is 4 successes.
Okay.
Hey, all right.
Margareta, you are looking fierce. The police are not moving closer. It is very much a standoff. But you have the sense, you hear, you can see Katerina, Irena, Akif. They are sort of kind of walking in your direction, but not even seeing what's going on. They're not really talking above your head. It's just like you are happening in the background. And you have this, again, this sort of image that the audience maybe has of, oh, the grown-ups are talking over there. And what's going on over here, it just doesn't concern them. How that makes Margareta feel, I leave up to you, of course.
They're ignorant. They don't understand what is really at stake here. They're playing with people on a map as if they're pawns, as if their lives are not real, as if they're just numbers on a piece of paper. And I admire and value Helena, but her alliances are all wrong. She doesn't understand the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that all lives are important. You can't just pick and choose who you care about because of power. You can't just show deference to someone who's just feeding innocence to this crazed, sick old vampire who doesn't even understand what's happening around him. There's no consult he can give us. There's nothing he can offer to this. He needs to be put down. The prince needs to be put down, and they don't get it, and they can treat me like a child because they don't see it. I see, but they don't see. They don't understand what's at stake here. So her anger she's trying to kind of push the police away with her anger so that she has a clear line at the prince so that she can either cower him or do whatever else is necessary to protect the innocent vampires being fed to him continuously to preserve what? To preserve what? An ancient, useless husk of destruction.
Here's how that plays out, I think, Margareta, subject to your correction, Phaedra. I imagine Margareta is kind of monologuing this, and we see her actually walking around this scene, getting into Irena's face, getting into Katerina's face, spouting all this vitriol. But of course, it's all in her head.
Just staring at people.
And instead, the only thing she does is take a step forward, and the police take 2 steps back. And Margareta, you have a clear path to the Iron Prince. Irena, Akif, Katerina has taken hold of the Tremere. Remember, his hood has been removed. He doesn't have long hair, but there's just enough for Katerina to get a hold of it and to stare him in the eyes. And she says, "What makes you so special, sorcerer?" And Orvain says, "I am the cure." Katerina looks your way, Irena, as though to, what to do with this information. And that's when the sound of gunfire begins to erupt from outside.
Oh, always something. Always something.
Let's go around the room to see what your immediate reactions are here, because I could see this playing out a number of different ways.
Oh my gosh.
Let's first go to Akif first of all.
Okay. So he's not really the tactics guy. So he's just gonna go and get a view out of a window and see who's shooting what. Just a pretty basic move there.
I'll describe how that plays out in just a second. Okay. Irena, what would you like to do or say?
Looking directly to her, sire, my priorities are securing that Tremere and securing you. And that is absolutely 100% what she's going to hyper-focus on.
Margareta.
There's two ways to do this, isn't it?
Ooh, we're waiting on you though, baby. I was waiting for him to get to you.
Goodness. So, for a split second, Margareta is torn, just as I am. She could use this opportunity as a distraction. Just finish this thing.
Yeah.
Kill the prince. The ultimate Anak act.
And to
Maybe
be clear, it doesn't seem like it would be very difficult.
Yeah, there's not much left to this prince who's still controlling everything without being right in his mind. Of course, is Katarina any better? She's just gonna take his place and just continue everything exactly as it is. But is there enough presence of mind in her to not act on that rage, to act rationally? That doesn't sound like something she would do, really. Not right now. Not when she's heard the gunshots. Not that her opportunity might be taken away in a few seconds. Did she hear the cure being mentioned, or was she too involved in her own shenanigans to hear any of that?
I leave that to you.
There's no listen roll. That would have been helpful.
Phaedra, Margareta can have heard it or not. Up to you.
Goodness. Big choice there. She doesn't care. She doesn't want the prince being cured, even if the cure exists. Plus, if he dies, then no one will know if she was actually approved by him or not. She can just tell people she was approved by the prince, and all her problems will be solved. There is no downside to this.
There's no
course of action.
This is perfect.
Everything's
There's
fine.
no downside.
Yeah, he died. He died in the gunfire. It was real sad.
It was real
She's
sad.
clearly sick, so she's not going to try and get his blood in her mouth or anything. But is there anything sharp she can reach? There's a surgical table there, right? So is there something she can stab the prince with, ideally, in the heart or
yes,
in the face? All right, then I guess let's go. She's not a strong Bruja. She's more of a wits kind of. But she can't kill him with her wits, not in this situation. So she's just going to try her best.
Insult him to death.
Insult him to death.
Yeah.
You husk.
Divine mockery or something. What is it?
Divine mockery.
I don't know D&D, but
So
this seems like a D&D thing.
Margareta, I would like you to make a is negotiable, but I am imagining strength plus brawl.
Yeah, I don't think she can. Yeah, she has skills, but none of them are fighty in the way Brawl is. I don't think she can streetwise him to death. So
No, but you could activate your lethal body.
yeah, I mean
Ooh.
that's yeah, assuming an attack, it gives me 1 extra damage. 1 extra damage is okay, and it's free. So, oh, it ignores 1 level of armor.
It
The
ignores
Prince of
armor,
Armor.
and it means that even if you were making unarmed attacks, you are able to essentially crush steel with your hands, and so you do aggravated damage just
Yeah.
with your hands.
I mean, no reason to not activate that. It's free. And then the prowess.
Yeah, would you like to activate your
Adds
prowess?
1 more down. Yeah, of course.
Wow.
All right, go ahead and
Heck
give me a
yeah.
rouse check.
I'm killing the prince.
When you absolutely positively need to put everything you can into this roll.
I rolled a 9 on my rouse check.
Yeah,
Nice.
There we go.
Stays where it is. So
I
you
am
get to
ready.
Go ahead and give me a strength plus brawl roll, to which you will add your potence rating. And we will
Okay.
come back to you in a second to hear how that has gone. Akif, you go to one of the large windows that overlooks the courtyard outside the castle. You see the flashes of muzzles firing as what you suspect are a number of police officers crowded around the entrance to the castle, opening fire at shapes moving out of the shadows from the direction that the van came in originally, so from the direction of the city itself. And there's about a dozen figures. It's a strange collection of individuals, though. You are able to use your Eyes of the Beast, yes? To see in the dark.
Yes.
All right, in that case, I'll give you a full description here.
Great.
The line comes in 3 parts. There are 3 waves, if you will. The first wave is sort of moving lethargically. They are running, but not particularly quickly. It's almost a mechanical type run. And you see the skinheads you saw earlier from the riot on Wallhauser Straße. But you also see Nguyen. You don't recognize this individual. Margarete would.
Okay.
This is the Vietnamese German that was in the care of Beauregard Krüller and Charisse Fontaine. And he is right in the midst of them there, also moving in exactly the same way. And they are being gunned down in the way that mortals getting struck by bullets are.
I see.
The second line is half a dozen figures that are moving much more carefully, methodically, strategically. It's not like they have particular strategic acumen, but they are moving like a pack of animals might move. And you see that 3 of them are in their underwear.
Okay.
And the last line, you see 2 vampires because they have their fangs bared. And the audience knows that this is Beauregard Krüller and Charisse Fontaine. And Beauregard Krüller calls out, probably not audible to anyone except you, Akif, because you're right by the window. I'm here for my child.
Oh, fuck me.
Margarete, how did the roll go?
Not great. So I rolled an 8 with my normal die, 2 2s with my 2 of my vampire dice, and with my final vampire die, I rolled a 1. which I believe is a complicated failure or something.
Yeah, it's a messy failure.
Messy is what I like to think when I think of killing a prince. So that's what works out. Who do I stab instead? Myself?
No, this isn't no Dungeons and Dragons where you fail
Fall
your
on your
sword
sword.
blow and hit your friend. No.
This is not
Rather,
going to be slapstick. I was hoping
this
I'd slip
is,
on some ashes or something.
this is going to be the beast taking over, and the camera that was looking outside at this battle that is unfolding, we see it turn back to Akif, who turns around, and as he does, we see Margareta leap on top of the bed on which lies the Iron Prince and drive her fangs deep into his throat.
No.
She begins to drain him.
On the plus side, if I properly diablerize the prince, I will be super powerful.
You're going to be super something.
And super infected, but we have a cure over there. We'll figure it out.
I think this might be an appropriate place to take a small break.
Alright. I'll enjoy this.
Yeah.
Symphony fans, we're going to take a break and we will see you guys in 10. Woo!
We are back, Symphony, for the conclusion of Contagion, a Vampire the Masquerade scenario written by Ben Heydrich. When we last left off, the action was with Margareta. Margareta, please describe how you diablerize the Prince of the East.
Margareta hates feeling helpless and incompetent. And when she tried to attack the prince, but found herself unable to cause damage properly to kill him, the beast took over. It doesn't matter what happens to her. It doesn't matter how many vampire laws she completely disobeys and breaks. She's going to take that prince down, even if it's the last thing she does. And she lunges forward. She knows she doesn't have the time. She doesn't have the time to think about this. She just follows the beast, and the beast takes her where it will. And
what do we see of the prince as he meets his final death?
So the camera is behind Margareta, and you hear the noise of fangs and claws plunging into sickly withered flesh. Not the supple kind of flesh. It's almost ashy, like she's plunging into bloody bark of a tree. And you hear the noises, you hear the guttural growls of pleasure and rage and satiated hunger coming from her. And she's ingesting his disease, but she doesn't care. She's been sick all along. She knows it. It's everywhere. And then after time of plunging into him with everything she's got, she pauses and the camera turns all the way around and you see the prince splayed out on the floor, eyes gouged, ribcage broken open.
Oh, wow.
And the heart nowhere to be found until the camera turns around a little bit more and see Margareta just bite into it, just squeeze it as hard as she can, and then just bite it and then spit on the prince as she's fully into her beast.
Irena, you know Katerina to be a powerful kindred. She likely has access to powers that you will not for hundreds of years yet to come. She could be doing something as she is watching this terrible display. But all you see is a tear of blood rolling down her cheek as she watches her sire be consumed by your coterie member.
Irena watches. One, what the fuck is she going to do right now? Margareta is in Margaretaville right now. There's nothing I can do to help that. I watch, and I am going to adjust my physical posture where I am 40 inches directly from the back of my sire and directly off to the left. It's a very militarized, conditioned response. It's one of deference. It's one of allegiance. It's one of servitude. And then I am going to say, Your Grace, how would you like us to proceed?
You see Katerina's shoulders silently, there's no breath, of course, slump. And the sound of gunfire from outside is decreasing. But it is not decreasing in the way that would indicate victory. It is decreasing because there are fewer guns firing and hands able to wield them. Akif. Orvain Evans is at first inching his way away, and as you cast your glance over to him, it is apparent that however much his mobility is limited, he's going to try and make a run for it while this is all going on between Irena and Katerina and Margareta and what's left of the corpse prince of the East.
So he's gonna just stride over to him if possible, and just literally just grab him like by the back of the shirt, almost like a scruff of the neck thing, lift him up or drag him, whatever he's, this is the plan anyway, and deposit him at the feet of the two Ventru. That's the plan. We can talk about it with dice if you want.
No need. What's Tamir going to do, bound up as he is? And I just love the sight of this member of Clan Gangrel bringing back the spray and depositing it at the feet of the Ventru.
And as he does, he drops him and says, "You all please figure out this cure situation. I would like to go get some fresh air."
Just as a quick point of clarification, because I know you have a house rule, Heinrich, that all information is shared across the board unless said otherwise. Yeah. When Akif was in the window, Evan, is it fair to say that you were giving us a status report back from what you saw?
Yeah. No reason to keep that secret. Well, my only question is, do I recognize... I know I didn't recognize when. Did I recognize the vampires?
Good question. I will say that yes, you would not have known them on a personal level, but you might have seen them at other kindred gatherings in Berlin.
Okay.
You would have been aware of where their domain is and what club they call home. So you are roughly aware of their nature.
Okay. So so when I say that, so we know who's outside, and when I say I'd like some fresh air, it's not a code, a mystery, what I want to go do.
Right.
I'm feeling kind of useless here when it's time for biology or whatever we're going to do up here. And so, I'm kind of looking to you and to Katerina, Irena for permission to go and start hunting things that are coming.
So then Irena is just tactically going to give a very quick debriefing to Katerina to basically give context, especially since she hasn't been on the field. The skinheads are after the Tremere. We rescued him, we saved him, we extracted him and brought him here. Or actually, you kind of did that to us. But she will break that down. It's like the skinheads are here for here, and to my understanding, the kindred are here for Margareta.
Akif, you go off into the outside.
And this is something he's always enjoyed, because he is in control. He gets to use both the cop instincts and the gangrel instincts.
Yeah.
And this is not a frenzied loss of control, tear everything apart. This is, move quietly, use the shadows, use the nocturnal vision, pick people off as convenient or as weak or as lagging, and kind of enjoy himself a little bit.
Akif, we're going to come back to you being, I believe, an absolute badass in just a second.
It's so dope.
But Katerina will turn to you and she will say, I think it best that we surrender to the prince, but I would have your counsel.
Bridgett is asking for a point of clarification because is she not the prince now?
I mean, she is, in a manner of speaking, the Prince of the East, but you know that when she says prince, she is referring to the Prince of the West. The way she's sounding is her view is Prince of the East is dead. And right now, there's only one prince remaining. And it is not she.
Fucking Ventru. I hate him. I actually love him. I nod in deference. The Prince of the West would want this Tremere alive.
You will give us bargaining power. She looks over to the police officers who are, two of them are still here, the ones that Margareta cowed, and that are definitely not closing in on Margareta. The other two that were still by the door have left, presumably to bolster the castle's defenses. Katerina shrugs her chin towards the Tremere. The police officers, the armored riot police officers, grab the Tremere, put the bag back over his head, and Katerina begins to lead the way through some of the secret passages that will lead you out of the castle. Akif, as you emerge, either through a window, through a back door, you are aware that the police guard is largely fallen silent. Perhaps there's still one or more stragglers who are holding the last of what's left of the line. You can also see that of the humans, there's maybe just one or two of them left. The rest would have been gunned down, charging the castle. Of the kindred, remember, 3 in their underwear and 3 clothed in club attire, as though they just came, as they did, from that haven.
So is Akif, point of information.
So is Akif, that's right.
Polyester disco shirt.
Yeah.
Here we go, yeah.
That's right. And of course, there's Beauregard Kriller and his accomplice. And everyone is going to be converging on the castle. But I think that's all the information I'm going to give you for purposes of descriptively telling us how Akif is taking care of business.
So he would do the, if it's dark, that's great. And so he is going to let them come on. There's no point in trying to take them all in an open space. So he's going to let them come on, and he's going to kind of hang around in a crevice near the front door. And he's actually going to wait until they've come into the front hall, which I don't think there's anyone in. And then it's going to be a little bit like a horror movie, if you'll permit me to do this, where it's dark. Perhaps he's doused an additional torch here or there. And there's a lot of sounds of scuffling. There's a lot of sounds of someone, a brief and then nothing. There are sounds probably from one remaining human of a wild shot. The flash of which illuminates this bestial face grinning with absolute delight as it is then covered by a spray of arterial blood.
Oof.
And then he is excited and happy, and he is going to just try himself against these vampires. I imagine the underwear vampires, being mere underwear vampires, are essentially mooks for him. And so in there, and they're probably not used to moving in the dark, being hunted. So that's going to be, more of that same kind of gleeful killing, a claw to the throat, a claw to the heart, right through the rib cage in the dark with the screaming. And then there's just Beauregard and the other one whose name I've forgotten. And sorry, I couldn't hear you.
My bad. Didn't want to interrupt while you were narrating.
Yeah.
Are you going to go after Beauregard or Charisse?
I think I'm working my way up.
Okay.
I think I enjoy. There's something appealing about picking them off weakest, strongest.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then you're going to hear the crack of knuckles, because while there is no life left in your bodies, you still have bones. Yeah. And as you turn around, having finished off another one of these neonate vampires, they may have been vampires for a matter of days or weeks, thin-blooded, not aware of their powers, barely kindred. But Beauregard, from behind his Ray-Ban sunglasses, smiles at you with fanged teeth, cracks his knuckles on his other hand, and seems to be ready to take you on.
Oof.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Margareta, you hear the sound of heels coming towards you. You are right now in a state of vile ecstasy, might be one way of describing it. You are both filled with more power than perhaps you have ever been, and at the same time, thoroughly exhausted.
Do I get to reduce my hunger a little bit?
You sure do. Your hunger is now at level 0.
Oh, nice.
You have never before, as a kindred, felt full. But you do so now.
This is great. I can see why people like it. Cannibalism. Yes, please. I ingested a soul. This is soul food. That's what they...
Literal soul food.
If I may borrow your line, Margareta, Charisse Fontaine, who is approaching you, the room is otherwise empty, will say exactly that. You can tell why we go for it, can't you?
Ooh. I don't think she's in her right mind to have a witty conversation right now. She just stands to her and starts, her eyes wide, starts as the beast starts taking a step back, but she's still so overwhelmed with all of these new sensations. There's a little bit of recognition in her eyes, but not enough to understand what she's fully talking about or what she's doing here. She has no idea what's been happening this whole time.
No.
Yeah.
will go down to one knee beside you. She will remove her own sunglasses, and you will feel her hand caress your cheek as she says, "You are so beautiful." And she will move to kiss you.
I think she will probably be kissed for a bit just because she's frozen in confusion. And then she's going to take a step back. What are you doing here? What are you doing?
She rises. "I'm here to take back what is mine. I'm here for my child." And she reaches out her hand.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Me, wow.
But, Beauregard.
He drained you dry. I'm the one who brought you back.
Does she feel the Sire connection? Is that kind of a felt sense? Does that ring true to her in like a deeper way? Or is it just something someone's saying she might be lying?
No, that kiss just now. There was blood in her mouth. And as she tasted you, you tasted her, and you feel in your veins, your black veins, cursed by diablerie, that she is telling the truth.
Ooh.
Why didn't you tell me? You have left me wandering this whole time. You never got permission from the prince. Look at what you made me do. It's all your fault.
Therese says, "Nothing comes easy for the Sabbat, but ours is the true way."
I'm not Sabbat. I'm an Anak.
She steps closer to you, takes both your shoulders in each of her hands and says, "But you could be. The struggle for Berlin is just beginning. Join me, and let us finally drive the nail through the coffin of the Camarilla and condemn them to their final death, so richly deserved." And she kicks with one heeled foot the hand of the Prince of the East, which has come loose as his body has deteriorated and becomes ash.
Margareta looks back to see the prince turn into ash, to see what she's done. How much humanity would you say I have lost? And generation points?
I would say that is information that we would be very concerned about if this character were proceeding past the immediate story.
Fair. Very
okay,
fair.
I just wanted to use humanity like as a role-playing thing, potentially. Like, is she quite close to human, or is she like more...
I would say that this can go both ways. Okay. Either your humanity has lessened because the beast took over and you absolutely consumed one of your fellow beings, or you stood up for your values and you took down one of the tyrants that maintains this unjust order.
Good point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, could go either way.
And of course, we know that we've been unfairly prejudiced towards the West this whole time, potentially. We know that there are divides that are potentially meaningless, and even the people who are on our side are unfairly cruel. And they turn their back at us for a second for power. And camera briefly flashes to Irina and Akif, who have abandoned her for the Ventru overlords. And
Therese watches the thought process going on in your eyes.
And who is to say that the Sabbat have not been unfairly deemed lesser, other, evil? We love to speak of evil, but aren't we all evil in a sense? And what she did diablerie, this thing that is terrible, as one of the worst crimes of the Camarilla. How could it be wrong if it felt so right? And she did the right thing, and she knows that in her dead, cold, unbeating heart. And this is where she belongs. She has finally found the thing she's been craving for, her true sire. And she has an opportunity to finally be with, just to learn, to not be abandoned, to not be forgotten, like the coterie abandoned and forgot her. They didn't really support her. They were just using her. Now she's here, and there's a way forward, and I will survive this. I thought I would die today, but I might come back more powerful than ever. And she's cautious because she's been promised things before, and she's been given hope before. But she takes a step forward.
Akif, we leave the camera, which was just showing the floor, the distance between Charisse and her high-heeled shoes and Margareta's feet. And we see Margareta take that step forwards towards Charisse. And then we cut away to the two of you, Beauregard Kriller, supposed sire of Margareta Schiller, and you, of Clan Gangrel. It's clear Beauregard is up for a tussle. What is your plan of action here, as you are within the hallway of this decrepit castle in East Berlin?
So this is, to him, this is a straight up fight for dominance. This is, you've come into a territory that's not yours. It's not really mine, but it's not his either. You've brought, in Akif's eyes, Beauregard has made himself look ridiculous by parading around with people in underwear and marching them into a line of guards. And the one thing that you cannot do in front of a predator is look ridiculous. And so he looks him in the eye in a way that he never would with Irena or with Katerina. And he says what he's thinking and what his entire body is yearning to prove. He looks him in the eye and he says, "I'm better than you." And he runs towards him, intending to do grievous but non-fatal bodily harm. He is trying to do overwhelming and scary so that Beauregard will give up and give him the satisfaction of acknowledging that Akif is better than him.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a strength and brawl roll.
Okay.
If there are powers you wish to activate,
yes, there sure are. We're gonna. I've lost them because they're on the other sheet, but we're gonna do the claw thing again. I'm gonna find it. Sorry, I hadn't needed it until just now. That is the feral weapons. So we're gonna do a rouse check, I suppose. Okay. And that's a 4.
So your hunger goes up by 1.
Yeah, which is probably fine for the overall, picture I'm going for here. And then it was strength. Oh, and then I can also do the other thing. Can you rouse twice for just generally being? Sorry,
what's your hunger level at?
4 right now.
Oh shit!
So this would risk your hunger level going to 5.
Yeah, of course.
I'm down for it. I'm not sure it's permitted under the rules, but under the circumstances, let's have fun.
Sure.
I deeply want you to fail this round.
I know, I did too, but that's a 9. That's
okay.
a 9.
All right.
All right. 4 is enough hunger for now. So remind me, that adds the 2 because
that
of
adds an additional 2 dice. Yep.
Okay, so we're doing strength is 3, brawl is 2, plus 2 is 7. That's good because I only have 7 dice out right now. But I'm swapping in another hunger die, and we're rolling, and I'm going to do this fast unless you need to cut away. Balls again. Sorry, I'll just roll a different one. No, that was one of the hunger ones. This is the worst desk setup, I swear to God. Okay. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3 successes, no 1s on any of the die. Sorry, it was a little boring.
You You go after him. You charge him. And then he's not there anymore.
Oh, God.
And you hear laughter behind you as you feel an iron bar pushed through your back.
Ow. Ow.
Ugh.
Ah. Okay.
You feel your limbs paralyze. And Beauregard stands over and crouches down and says, "Don't mess with the sons of Malkav."
Crazy bastards.
I don't want to lose to a club kitty. So demeaning.
Margareta, you and Charisse are making your exit. Beauregard is dusting off his hands. You see Akif on the ground with a bit of rebarb just sticking through him, locking him in place. Charisse looks at you questioning, as though what should be done with him.
Let him go. He has done nothing. He has no power.
That doesn't feel good either.
No, it doesn't. He ain't shit. Let him go.
Beauregard says, "Ah, but you really shouldn't be giving me instructions, my child," he says.
Your child. Try again. You hold no power over me, you liar.
You know, I did always think that there was something a little too sensible about you.
Oop.
Besides the fact that we belong to a different clan.
That might have been it.
You hear sirens in the distance, and Charisse says, "Time for us to go. Struggle will continue another night." We cut away to Irena. Irena, are you okay with me monologuing a little bit what happens as you leave the castle?
Please, by all means.
In short, you will be met by
Did I break?
No.
Oh, okay. Listen,
We
this is
paused.
Symphony Streams. You never know.
I was looking for a name. I was looking for a name.
Nope, you're good.
In the nights that follow, Katerina and you and various police escorts, after all, a lot of the Berlin police force is still under Katerina's control, will meet and enter into negotiations with a woman named Nicole Sotheby, English name, acting on behalf of Prince Wilhelm. Orvain de Tremere is, sure enough, a key part of the negotiations. These negotiations will drag on for a while, but you will find yourself at one point turned over to the Prince of the West's custody. Katerina explains that both you and she will need to show their fealty to this prince. And she wishes you good luck and hopes to see you again, but cannot help you in this respect. The camera comes on Irena in what to us appears to be an interrogation room. We know that this is in fact a chamber in part of the Gesundbrunnen train station, a combined subway and metro station, part of a network of World War II bunkers being restored, and the current domain of Prince Wilhelm. Irina is not shackled, but neither is the chair she is in particularly comfortable. Across from the interrogation desk is Nicole Sotheby. We haven't met Nicole Sotheby before now, but she played very much the same role that Katharina played for Prince Gustav. She was an exchange student at one time and still wears a form-fitting dress looking every part the glitzy West that now seems to reign supreme. Behind her is Orvain Evans de Tremere, holding a skull. The skull is pointed at you. His hand rests on top of it. And Nicole Sotheby says, "Let's start from the top, shall we?"
Let's.
Please be truthful. This will be important for Prince Wilhelm to evaluate your future in his court.
I understand.
Miss Mahler, tell me about the Nosferatu known as Emilia.
And that's not to eat up stream time. It's a very militarized debriefing. We came into contact with Amelia at on this particular date. There was a feign in place that we were unaware of. She, led us into the sewers, and she was eventually met her true death by a member of her coterie, which she will actually articulate that name out loud. A Keef of Clan Gangrel. No emotion. No fluff, no frills. It's very almost with an annoyed bite at the end. It's like, can you get to the next question so we can get to the end of these questions so I can move the fuck on about my day?
Nicole Sotheby looks at you and smirks. And we cut to a similar room. Nicole is still sitting there, smirking, Orvain in the background. But now when the camera turns, we see Akif sitting there. Herr Yilmaz, tell me about the riot on Walhauser Straße. And you know that she is referring to the riot that happened when you all emerged from the sewers. And there was that not quite explosion, but the flashbang that then triggered a stampede, that triggered further police violence, and, well, possibly other things as well.
Yeah.
I am dying to know if one part of this story is articulated. You have no idea how badly I want to hear Evan do it or not do it.
So the thing is, two things are happening. There's always two things with him. One, he's very cheerful, because even though he was stuck unmoving in a dank old castle for a while, he had a good clean fight and found out that someone was better than him, and that was fine. So he's still got some residual high off of that was, that's kind of how the world should operate. That was great. So he's, through this whole process, presumably of being unstaked, right, and carted off here, he's just been kind of weirdly cheerful. And he uses the old cop trick of writing a police report, where you use a lot of weirdly passive, indirect language, so that nobody actually did anything and nothing actually happened. I don't know what a term for a flashbang would be, but a projectile was thrown into the crowd. Rioters were beaten by other units that responded. And the leader of the skinhead group was persuaded to desist. They always use desist in following the person of interest over here, and does not say that he took a big bite out of this lady's neck.
Go ahead and roll me. I think it's going to be manipulation and subterfuge.
Okay.
If there's something else you want to argue for, I will hear it. But you are
spiritually bureaucracy, but it's the same number of dots, so
okay.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
It's been a couple days. Is he still at full hunger?
No, he would not
Okay.
be. He would be at 3 hunger.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, somebody gave him a snack. Nice.
That was very kind of them. All right, so it's going to be 4 dots altogether. He's feeling pretty good, so he doesn't feel the need to like ace this test. And that is 1 success and no ones.
Nicole Sotheby, from a folder, removes a photograph of
Here we go.
a woman you recognize very well as the leader of the skinhead group that you confronted. She pushes over your way and she says, Herr Yilmaz, tell me about Erika Geiger.
Does the name do anything for him?
No.
Then very neutrally identifies her as the lead pursuant of the Tremere there, and the thrower of the incendiary device, and that's all he gives up at the moment.
Nicole Sotheby looks back over her shoulder at Orvain Evans holding the skull, and you see Orvain give the slightest shake of his head.
Wow.
We
Balls.
cut to a large underground hall. There's a raised platform. The room is filled with kindred. The press of so many beasts so close together gives the atmosphere certain electricity. It is hardly dispelled when Prince Wilhelm Waldburg emerges. He is of bright blue eyes, strong jaw, cheekbones, dark blonde hair, tailor-made clothing. Very much the image of a mogul or tycoon. My kindred, it is done. The war is over, he begins. And we finally have an answer to that horrible blood curse which has decimated our ranks, turned us against each other, and made us weep for the loss of our lost ones. I give you Orvain of House Tremere, who is responsible for the cure that will heal this city. And Orvain Evans appears from a side chamber. And there is brought out a... could be a gangrel. You're not completely sure. They seem out of it.
Mm.
They are bleeding from their ears, nose. They clearly are in the last stages of the blood curse. And Orvain removes a vial of what appears to be blood, drains it into the kindred's mouth. And you see the kindred begin to lower themselves down to the ground. And they begin to cry. Tears of blood. It's sort of dripping on the ground, creating a small pool. And the kindred looks up and says, "Thank you." Before long, there's a line of kindred, all receiving vials of blood, of what turns out to be Orvain's blood. After the cure is administered, Prince Wilhelm continues. But while we have addressed the symptoms of a sickness, we would be amiss not to also address the cause. Desire makes thieves and tyrants both. My sire went too far when he unleashed a curse on us all to win this war. He had forgotten that we who bear the mark of Cain are indeed our brother's keeper. And he gestures at the audience. He has now paid the price. And I am glad to see you all, kindred, safe. My heart is heavy, for I loved my sire, who has fallen to his own sin. The blood of so many cries out to us from the ground. You will give it a voice. You, the young and inexperienced, have most suffered from the Iron Prince's tyranny. We elders here, and he gestures to himself and Orvain and Nicole Sotheby, who has appeared as well, share some of that guilt and all of the responsibility for what has transpired. Going forward, we will rebuild this city and heal its wounds. We need to make amends. So, I humbly ask you, for I cannot accomplish this alone, nor against your will, are you with me? And the kindred, who have just been cured of the blood curse, break out in raucous applause. Akif, Irena, you are brought out as this cheering for Prince Wilhelm fills the hall. And there are sort of two columns of kindred leaving a clear path for you to be brought before the prince.
Ugh, this feels like an execution.
Yes, not good.
Thank you, he says. I will prove myself worthy of your trust. And as the first act of this new age of Berlin, it falls upon me to decide the fate of the last of those who have come to us from the other court. While many are still out there, some of them have come to us of their own free will to give confession. Irena, you are very aware that Katerina is nowhere in sight.
She told me good luck. We know what that meant.
Irena Mahler, you have always proven loyal service to my sire and to his child. Will you pledge the same loyalty to me?
That hard pause was totally in game because one, you don't rush Arena, and two, she's gonna make everyone hang on that decision up until the point it's like, oh, she's actually gonna. I do.
And Bridgett, is Irena telling the truth?
She is. She actually is.
All right. The prince nods and says, then welcome to my court. As I have had a right hand, and he looks to Nicole Sotheby, now I shall have a left as well. Akif, the prince looks over to you. Akif Yilmaz of Clan Gangrel, you stand in breach of the Masquerade
Oh,
and
God,
the traditions that uphold the Camarilla. How do you plead?
I am guilty of these things, my prince.
A canister of gasoline is being brought out.
Someone's
That's
getting
not great.
fired.
That's not great.
Literally.
I don't love that.
There it is.
Arena, do you wish to do anything as preparations are made to carry out an execution?
Quick questions from an etiquette standpoint with 2 pips from what I'm aware from either of these kingdoms in this long ancestry bullshit. Where is this pendulum sliding as far as, a capital execution? Is this like the far end option or is this the standard?
A breach of any of the traditions suffices for a penalty of death.
Which we're good with. But is gasoline the only option? Or basically want to know is, could I kill him in a different way?
Ah.
Could I kill him in a
sweet.
different way other than him burning alive? Or is that just standard? If it's standard, she's going to do absolutely nothing but stand back and watch.
It is one of several ways. And so you could choose to employ a different method, or you could choose to intercede.
This has absolutely nothing to do with loyalty and absolutely everything to do with he fucked up in a major way. And she told him that they were going to have this discussion. Things fell apart too quickly. Akeef is a liability. How he behaved in the tunnels was unacceptable. His behavior above ground is going to cost a lot of kindred their lives. He is guilty. He admitted it himself. I'm not going to stand and brush my nose in the face of the law, especially not here in someone else's court. Well, I guess it's my court now too. But she still feels compassion for him because, let's be honest, her sire says she didn't have friends, but she genuinely does love Margareta and Akeef. So she is going to step forward and ask if she can handle the execution herself, as a display of fealty and a contribution to the new court.
The prince looks to Nicole Sotheby, much as she looked to the Tremere moments ago, and Nicole gives a slight nod. And the prince smiles and gestures for you to proceed.
So
it is a new order, he says. Carry out the sentence you consider appropriate.
She is going to confiscate temporarily the largest blade that she can. Of the kindred gathered here, whatever is set up as ornaments, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care.
What kind of a blade is it?
I mean, she's a Ventru, so I mean, she would deal with a machete, but a sword would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be a very ornate Knights Templar sword.
That's beautiful and perfect, because though this sentence is just, we're all alive right now and we're cured right now because of the aid that was provided by Akeef. So with this sword, she's going to do this almost ritualistically, almost ceremoniously, but she is going to stand before Akeef. And Akeef, you can see the look in her face. She's not hesitating or doubting this by any means. But there is a compassion and an empathy that is present, that you know that she's trying to offer you a smoother transition out. Neil.
And he does.
Akeef.
Yes.
What goes through your mind moments before this blade will fall?
He wondered always what it would be like. He was fixed on survival, fixed on striving, fixed on trying to reconcile the impossible conflict of order and hunting and beastiness and anger and resentment. But here in the end, he found what he always wanted, which is to know where he fits in. And even though he's kneeling, and even though he finds it a little ungrateful, he brushes his unruly hair back from his neck, looks up at his friend with a very peaceful face, and says, both a blessing and a curse, he says, "Thank you. I'm happy to know where I stand." And he waits.
Akeef, we start hearing music play. The audience, that is. You don't hear anything. It's a folksy tune, something on the order of "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend," but sung in German. Irena, what do you do?
Irena is going to look down. I'm going to look down at Akeef. I am going to square my hips and step my right foot back, getting into the proper posture, because for public aesthetics, we don't want to botch a decapitation. And Akeef doesn't deserve that. And she's going to look at her new prince. She is going to look at her seneschal, and she is going to look around the faces of the kindred of this room. And I am going to deliver a very brief eulogy in front of Akeef. This kindred is being sentenced to die for breach of the Masquerade. He knew the risks. He made the choice. but he also chose to stand up and fight for the Camarilla when we were at our weakest, when we were divided, when we were eating each other to death. Without this man's help, every single one of you who have just enjoyed the cure, including myself, would be dead. And then she slices.
And moments before we see the blade reach Akif's neck, the camera cuts away and the music continues playing louder, and we see Margareta in the company of her new friends, her new family. Margareta, what do we see by way of epilogue for you?
I would say a montage. First, a lot of questions. So you kind of see Margareta either walking or sitting with her new sire, and you hear the questions, and the answers are kind of given to her, but almost off screen. It's just a series of question after question where you can't tell if she's getting good or bad answers, or she's learning more or not, but time passes. And then she feels the power, she makes choices, she feels like she's made a good decision. And then time passes again, and you start seeing that she's pushed to deliver punishments and pain to those who don't deserve it. And she's starting to realize slowly, after she's caused a lot of harm, that she has become something she never wished to. And that, in fact, there was no right choice. And she's once again trapped. She might not be dead, but she's not where she'd like to be. And that is the true curse.
That has been Vampire the Masquerade, Contagion. Written for the Storyteller Community Program by Ben Heydrich. Our cast has been, I'll leave it to Bridgett.
Ooh. I know. I can't wait for this talk back. Friends of the Symphony, that is indeed where our show ends for tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in live or is currently watching the replay. You are indeed the best part of waking up. Stay tuned for Symphony September Sonatas, where we're going to be running 5 different Symphony Sonatas for the entire month. If you're interested in improvised horror storytelling, this is definitely the type of game for you. You're welcome to join the chat, and if you are there live, you can throw suggestions at the storyteller, and the storyteller may or may not incorporate them, but chances are we will. It is 60 minutes of improvised horror. Join the chat, inform the story. To follow us for those schedulings, you can check us out at symphonyentertainment.com. The cast and crew are going to take a brief break, and then we're going to come back for that post-gala symphony talkback where we unpacked what just happened to Berlin, what just happened to our characters, what happened to our moral compass, and we unpacked everything that we lost. To get access to that content, you can check us out at Patreon at patreon.com/symphony entertainment. And per the tee up that Heinrich so beautifully rolled out, before we empty out the auditorium, let's go around one more time and say goodnight to our symphonic cast. Starting with Heinrich, give us your name, where to find you, and some of the things that you do.
Symphony, thank you for tuning in. It has been a true privilege to get to play with everyone at this virtual table. My name is Heinrich Mohr. You can find me on YouTube on Heinrich Mohr Presents, where I have a series of videos talking about community content, how to create it, how to market it. Right now, I've been producing a series of video diaries describing the creation of the Carcosa Guide, an upcoming product that we're looking forward to releasing before the end of the year as a follow-up to Heinrich's Call of Cthulhu Guide to Character Creation.
Whew. Evan.
I'm Evan Perlman. I am a writer for the Miskatonic Repository. I am an organizer of community projects. I am wearing sunglasses because I don't want you to see me cry for my poor little vampire. And if you want to find me, I don't know, just find a rat whisper my name into its ear and let it go into the subway, and maybe we'll be reunited.
Ooh, this talkback is going to be fire. Phaedra.
Hello, I'm Phaedra. I'm founder and main keeper of Stars Are Right podcast, starsareright.com. Writer at the Miskatonic repository. Again, check out my titles. And if you want to hear more role-playing from me, check out Stars Are Right. Many recordings, including my scenarios, including The Children of Fear by Chaosium, including all the scenarios in the Cult of Cthulhu by Chaosium. And we are into recording Berlin, the Wicked City. Yeah. That's going to start premiering soon, and it's going to be a great one. Berlin as well. This is the 1920s. Very excited for it. So check that out very soon.
Whew. I can see all of our overstretched nervous systems right now. This has been an absolute delight. Heinrich, thank you so much for coming back to the Symphony. Thank you for running an absolutely stellar game. Phaedra, you're welcome here anytime. Evan, you're a long-term friend, and I love you to death. We hope you all have enjoyed the Symphony, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Have a wonderful night.